name is Brandy Montgomery-Riggins. I'm a D&I manager for Charter Communications. I'd like to welcome you to the inaugural NAMIC Leadership Spotlight. Today we'll be talking to a digital extraordinaire, Ms. Sam Adorno Phifer, who is the Vice President of Digital Marketing, INSP. Today I'd like to tell you a little bit about Sam's background at INSP. She's responsible for developing and implementing audience building plans that support both digital initiatives and linear growth. She's actually raised the network's Facebook followers from 137,916 in 2012 to over 2.5 million followers in her tenure. Just to brag about her a little bit, she's recently been recognized as a top woman in digital by Synopsys and an overachiever under 30 by Cablefax magazine. Sam is a graduate of the UNC at Chapel Hill. She's a Tar Heel through and through, and she's recently become Phifer. Just to tell you a little bit about her personal life, you have a recent marriage, am I?
Yes, 3 weeks ago.
All right. So I just really want to thank you for joining us today.
Yeah.
And you are your Instagram, your Facebook, your everything and all things in between. But I want to know a little bit about how you got to where you are today. So can you tell us a little bit about your journey to where you are in leadership?
Yeah, of course. So happy to be here. College was my ultimate goal. I was going to get there, and I got there, as you said, Chapel Hill, and spent my 4 years there and had no idea what I was going to do. I thought maybe law school, didn't really think about marketing, didn't think about television, didn't think about digital. And an opportunity to work for a company when I lived in Atlanta came up to be an intern.
Okay.
And I took that internship, and that was almost 10 years ago. So that company was then bought by Discovery Communications, which is kind of what I look at as a pivotal turning point in my career, which was before with the other company, it was digital, fell in love with digital, all the things with the web, and Facebook was just really becoming popular back then, and watching that evolution. And then when we were bought by Discovery, I thought, oh gosh, I didn't even know you could work in television, and here it was a job for me. So I actually spent 5 years there, and I worked in Atlanta for 2 of those years, and a job came up in DC, and it was one of those opportunities at their headquarters that I just told myself, if it doesn't work out, I can always move home. That was kind of at that age, my early 20s, just I can always move home, I can always move home. And so I took that job in DC, stayed there for 3 years, wonderful company, learned a lot. And at that time in my life, I was kind of ready to come back home to North Carolina. And a job came up at INSP. And again, didn't even know that there was a cable network down here. Took another risk, applied for that job, and that was 5 years ago. So it was all in taking risks and trusting my gut and making sure that I followed my heart, and kind of always kept in the back of my mind, I can always move home if it doesn't work out.
Right. It's always good to have a safety net, right? Especially within your parents.
Well, I think it's all about pushing through the fear. Will the role be right for me? It's a totally different company, all of that, kind of getting out of your own head and just trusting yourself and taking that next step.
So that actually is a segue into our next question. You talked a little bit about pushing through your fear. Can you tell us about some stepping stones that you had that helped you on your path to become the leader today that you are?
Absolutely. So I think, in all the organizations that we work at Discovery, at INSP, at Charter, there are different opportunities to join NAMIC or WICT or different organizations. And I think it's all about taking advantage of what's being put in front of you. And it's joining those organizations or networking or mentoring or finding people in the company. But what I've really done is really taken advantage of WICT. I've done WICT mentoring, where I have been a mentor, and now I'm doing a broader volunteer position with all of WICT Carolinas as an advisee. And through WICT, I applied for and graduated from Rising Leaders. It's finding and identifying those opportunities that come your way and just saying, I can do it, I can learn from this, and it's asking questions.
All right, well, that's a great segue into our next section that we're going to talk about, which is leadership in action. And that's actually one of the pillars that NAMIC is focusing on this year. So when you think about leadership in action, what does that mean to you as a leader?
So I think that means taking an active role in yourself and your team and investing in your team. I have 6 people, and each one of them are very different. And it's learning their personalities and learning what works for them and how do they want to be recognized, or how do they want to be challenged? It's learning that and taking that active participation. And it's also in encouraging yourself and others to get out there and get active and mentor, or, you know, be a mentee and really learn from other people. And it's all about not being passive and going after what you want. I like to look at it that no one owes you anything. I don't feel like anyone owes me anything.
Right.
You know, you have to go out there and get it and grab it and put yourself out there. So a lot of that is, you know, not just sitting by and being complacent. It's really standing up and saying, I'm here. You know, what opportunities are there for me?
Well, that's a good point that you bring up in regards to leadership. I know we always say that trust is an integral part of leadership today, and I know we have a lot of our membership base that are actually in new leadership roles. So what type of advice that you can give, would you give a new leader in regards to building trust within their team? And not necessarily, you know, it could be a leader from a manager, supervisor, or even a leader of a committee in some place like NAMIC and or WIC.
Yeah, I love that question. I think that trust is the foundation of all good leadership. You know, will people follow you? I think that's, do they trust you? Do they trust that you're honest? Do they trust that you know what you're doing? And I think it's really, in my day-to-day life, I live by the mantra of do what you say you'll do 100% of the time. And I try to practice that. And I think that's what I would give any new leader, even just any employee out there. If you always do what you say you'll do, your credibility will rise and you will be known as someone who operates with integrity. And I think part of that too is that whole, you know, be transparent, be honest. As leaders, we can't always share everything.
Right.
You know, there are certain things that we need to keep to ourselves, but being honest and letting people know as much as you can and keeping that open flow of communication is just exactly what I would say.
Everything that you said, I also think that that's also the building block to a person's brand of who they are.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that we didn't really get to talk about. We'll talk about that next time, but that's also a great pillar to actually build your brand of who you are as a person and as a leader. So I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about motivation.
Yeah.
So when you are looking to encourage those around you, such as people that you actually mentor, how do you find the right motivational and inspirational factors?
So I think that was one of the biggest things that I got out of Rising Leaders, was learning that there are different personality types and understanding what motivates different people. For me, I'm one of those people, my team will laugh if they see this, but I'm a bullet points, I'm a boom, boom, boom. I just need the high level, I don't need the story kind of person. But I have people on my team who are, you know, the dreamers, the ones that like to tell the full story, that like to be active and recognized and you know, the dream big. And so I say that to say that I think in order to motivate and to recognize people, you have to understand who they are at their core. And it's, some people, it's, you walk by their cubicle and you say, I think you did a great job. Other people, it's recognizing them in front of a team meeting. Other people, you know, it just depends, but I really think it's all about getting to know people and understanding that not everybody is the same and not everybody accepts recognition the same way. And so you have to take the time to, you know, ask them about their weekend and find out about, you know, what it is that fulfills them in order to then recognize them.
Okay, thank you for that. Yeah. So while I have you here, because you are a marketing extraordinaire, I did want to ask you a question to, you know, just from feedback to the membership base. Do you feel that marketing yourself is important, like using the social media platforms to actually market yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one of the benefits of social media, is just you can get out there and you can put yourself out there. Recently, one of my recent new hires, who has been one of the best hires I've ever made, reached out to me via LinkedIn and just hit me with exactly the right information that I needed. And you know, when people are coming in and you're getting applications online, you might miss people.
Right.
So I think it's absolutely beneficial and important to put yourself out there. I think it's all about finding the right networks that make the most sense for you. So for me, it would be, you know, LinkedIn, Facebook, and then marketing associations. You know, so Promax, which is a big marketing association for television, WIC, but being out there and putting your name out there, and it's all about raising your visibility.
Well, thank you so much for that. So you have it here, LinkedIn, Promax, raising your visibility overall. Sam, I want to thank you so much for
Thank
coming to
you.
speak to us today. We really do appreciate you for being a part of this process. And stay tuned for the next leadership update.